Hello, time for a year-end vlog, I suppose. This is the end of 2016 almost, and in fact it is. And I just thought I'd ramble on a bit about stuff, the year, what's happened, and what hasn't. It's been quite a serious year, really, hasn't it? Brexit, Trump, my divorce, my wife is gone now, or ex-wife I suppose now, and at least 50 famous celebrities have died, so many. The latest at the time of recording this was Carrie Fisher, age of 60, heart attack. Presumably, reading between the lines, it appears she didn't get proper treatment on the plane, it seems to me, because she was on a plane at the time. And I get the impression that CPR, or artificial respiration, wasn't really administered soon enough. So, she died. That's the impression I get, anyway, about what happened. Of course, she was Princess Leia in Star Wars. Out of all the celebrities, she's probably the one that I have the closest direct links to, because my ex-wife works quite often as a film extra, and she's been working on Star Wars 8 with Carrie Fisher. And her dog, Gary. That's Carrie Fisher's dog, that weird dog she takes with her everywhere. Being looked after by another member of her family now, I think a daughter or something. Apparently she was always friendly and chatty, which is good, unlike many other stars. Well, 60 years old, 3 years older than me. Makes me think, but I think a lot of the stars that are dying are the kinds of people who would burn the candle at both ends, if you see what I mean. Carrie Fisher had drug problems for many years, and liked the party life, all the booze and up late and all the rest of it, so I'm hoping I might last a bit longer. I don't know, obviously. But I mean, there's so many. What have we got? I've got a little article here from the Daily Mirror, an English newspaper, or paper anyway. Newspaper is the name for the serious ones, and paper is the ones that are not so serious. Although the Mirror, as it goes, is relatively well written. Let's have a look at who we've got. Carrie Fisher. Richard Adams, the author of Watership Down, and a few other well-known books. Age 96 he died. George Michael, of course. Another one having trouble with drugs and stuff, if I remember rightly. But great voice. Rick Parfitt of Status Quo. Actually died a while ago already with a heart attack on stage, but this time it was final. Zsa Zsa Gabor, age 99, and married 9 times as well, not all at once, but ever the optimist, I guess. My dad told me a story about her. Some man came up to her and said, "Do you remember me? Do you remember me?" And she said, "Should I?" And he said, "I asked you to marry me once." And she said, "And did I?" After marrying 9 times, who would she remember? Greg Lake. I hate his Christmas song. I really don't like it. But member of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They said there'd be snow this Christmas. I really don't. What's the point of singing miserable songs at Christmas? It's ridiculous. It is at least supposed to be cheerful. It's such a cliche to do something miserable when it's a time to be cheerful. It's like the cliche of the unhappy clown or something like that. It's just too obvious, you know. Okay, Peter Vaughan, Master Aemon Targaryen at Game of Thrones, which I don't actually watch because I don't have a TV. He's also Harry Grout in Porridge, which was a BBC sitcom. Andrew Sachs, Manuel from Fawlty Towers, died this year. Some more I don't know. Pete Burns, I've heard the name. You spin me round, baby, right round, yeah, like a record. Oh yes, I saw him in Big Brother when he was in there. Yeah, he was a bastard, actually. He was the sort of person who would like to needle people deliberately to see how they'd react, actually. Yeah, I remember him. Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder, you see him? There he is. From Willy Wonka, The Chocolate Factory and a zillion other movies. 83, Alzheimer's disease. Kenny Baker. Another Star Wars one this year. He was R2-D2. You wouldn't think so to look at him. But he was short and he could fit in that box back in the day. He was in all of the first 6 Star Wars movies. Muhammad Ali, epoch-making boxer. Originally known as Cassius Clay until he decided to annoy the powers that be and change his name to a Muslim one. Had Parkinson's disease for 35 years, but still managed to live. Carla Lane, not that many people will know her, but she was a famous sitcom writer in the UK. Butterflies and Bread, Liver Birds. Prince, I was never much of a fan of his, but you know, he was successful. Victoria Wood, comedian, famous in Britain. Sort of downbeat comedy was her style. David Guest, no fan of his really. He was Liza Minnelli's husband. That's all I know about him really. Kind of weird. They were well matched, I think. Ronnie Corbett. Now I suppose American viewers won't know who he is, but you know, there he is. Okay, he was famous as a comedian with the 2 Ronnies, him and Ronnie Barker. Ronnie Barker died back in 2005, and you can look up their sketches on YouTube. There's loads of them. They're really funny. They're English humour, but very funny. Ronnie Corbett. Paul Daniels, the magician. I never liked him very much, but he was quite talented actually. Terry Wogan. Again, a British type character. I don't think Americans will know who he is. Maybe you would, I don't know, but or non-Brits even. He was the compere for the Eurovision Song Contest usually. He was a DJ on Radio 2. He had his own TV show as well, an interview type show. He had the gift of the gab. He could talk the blarney. He was Irish. He was never boring, actually. His radio show, he'd play music, okay, so he was the DJ, effectively, but in a way he was more interesting than the records and the music he was playing, actually. He always managed to... He was the, I don't know, a master of idle chit-chat, I guess. Alan Rickman. Snape from Harry Potter. There. And of course David Bowie. And that's really just a few. Those are the ones that are considered to be known by British audiences by the Daily Mirror. And he's probably right. Why so many? You might be thinking. How come so many celebrities are dying this year? But they are the baby boomers. Or the beginning of the baby boom generation has now reached this age where they're starting to die off. So for the next, 5 to 10 years or so, we're going to see a lot of that. A lot of famous people are going to go. And of course a lot of that entire generation are going to disappear over the next 10 to 20 years. 20 years from now, only the longest lived of them will be around. But the ones who are going first, I suppose, are the ones who wreck their bodies with drugs and drink and travelling across time zones all the time and all this sort of thing. Makes me think of the people at work who are on the 24-hour shift. They don't work 24 hours, but they do 12 hours daytimes and they switch to 12 hours night times. But they do this like several times a month, so although they're only working something like 12 days a month or something like that, I can't remember for sure, they're switching time zones all the time. It cannot be healthy. But they've all signed an agreement to waive the European law, or British law as well, on rights of workers, so that they do what the employer wants, basically. Oh yeah, I'll sign that, I'll get the job, and then I'll kill myself for it. Needless to say, I don't go on those shifts, and I won't. The shifts change so rapidly every few days that your body never gets a chance to catch up, so it's well known that this damages the immune system over time, and people who do this live shorter lives. But of course, if you think about it, by the time a person reaches the age of, say, 35-ish, half of all the people who were alive when they were born will have died already. By my age, maybe 4 billion people have probably died since I was born. The entire race, the entire species, is recycled. When you get older, it starts to make you think about it. When you see all these celebrity deaths, it sort of brings it to mind. I mean, every single dog, cat, and all but the very longest lived birds have all died from when I was born. Now, I mean, some tortoises will beat me, they're still alive. I think the occasional parrot can live to 60 odd years, something like that, you know. But the majority of all animals that were alive when I was born have already died and been replaced. Some several times. It's very strange, and it's going to be our turn soon. I'm hoping, with healthy eating and stuff like that, that I will last a bit longer and make the most of it, you know. I mean, I'm sitting here making plans for my YouTube channel for when I'm rich and famous and all that, and I'm thinking, Carrie Fisher's only 3 years older than I am. On the plus side, both my parents are still alive, so I guess I've got some possibility there. But then Carrie Fisher's parents are still alive, I think, or at least Debbie Reynolds certainly is. I don't know about Eddie Fisher, the singer. I don't know. But I mean, I do kind of healthy eating. I don't do enough exercise because, well, frankly, with a full-time job, there isn't time for it. I get up early enough as it is, and when I get home, I'm tired. So the last thing I want to do is exercise. There was a time a few years ago in a recession when I was unemployed, and I was able to exercise then, and I did, and I got quite fit. But then I got a job, and another job, and I was didn't have the time. I was wiped out. And it's the same. I'm much less healthy now because I don't make the time to exercise because I'm tired and life is short and I'm too busy. If I give up my evenings, say 2 or 3 evenings a week, I'll have no time for almost anything else. Really, the other 4 days, it's you know, I'll just be manically doing stuff all the time. This is the way we live these days, that the working hours, they're shorter than they used to be, but there are more things to do. Okay, in the old days people worked 60 hours or even 80 hours in the early days of the Industrial Revolution. Ridiculous. And in, of course, the Far East, many slave labourers do now work these immoral hours. And hopefully corporate capitalism or whatever it is will make those countries richer gradually and they can reduce the hours bit by bit. Or replace everybody with robots and then we'll all starve. I don't know. But I do need to exercise more, but I can't figure out how to fit it in, basically. Especially when it's not such a pleasant thing to do anyway. If it was something really enjoyable, I know some people get an adrenaline kick out of it, but I don't, or rarely. It certainly hasn't become addictive. But I do eat more healthily. I think my ex-wife sort of forced me to eat healthily, or more healthily than I was. I was already eating fairly healthily, and she cut out a load more processed foods from my diet, and junk food as well, mostly, except McDonald's. And I mean, I've discovered that I've even gone off KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I've tried it a few times since my ex-wife left, okay, and each time I feel kind of ill after eating it. I mean, it tastes nice, but like it sits in my stomach like a rock sometimes, and it's just, I feel queasy for, well, at least 12 hours afterwards, and I can't sleep properly and all that. It's weird. So basically KFC is yuck. I don't know what's in it, but it's not wholesome stuff, clearly. I actually now prefer salad to KFC, which 10, 20 years ago would have been unthinkable. So, some improvements there. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mentioned that my wife was working with Carrie Fisher up at I think it was Warner Brothers Studios, but I've been to Pinewood Studios in the past because I used to do a bit of extra work in films as well, and worked with the occasional famous person. Peter O'Toole is the most notable one. Not known by people these days, but he is an Oscar winner. Never spoke to him, but I was within touching distance of him in some Roman movie, which was not a success. But it's a funny thing, Pinewood Studios, they don't have any tours of their studios, and people would love to go and see. And they actually have to have a notice on the website saying, we don't do tours, go away. Which is like very British to turn away customers, you know. Admittedly, the studios are just old sheds, basically, big old sheds, from the 1930s, so they look like, with metal frame windows and all that. And yet Warner Brothers Studios have noticed that people want to visit, and they've made the whole Harry Potter experience up at their studios, which are huge as well, of course. Now, of course, Warner Brothers isn't an English company; it's American. They've got a bit more brains about them business-wise. Funny. And what's coming up? What's going to happen in 2017? I don't think it's going to be a better year than 2016 overall. I think we're in for a rocky ride. Obviously, we're going to implement or start to implement Brexit, or the government's going to try and get out of it somehow or something. You lot in America are going to have the wonderful Mr. Trump, who really looks like the candidate of change until the other day, when he started announcing his policies on things like missile defences and Israel. He sounds just like every other president. Oh, full support, blah blah blah, for all this stuff. All of a sudden, now he's coming into power. Where's the rebellion? Where's the difference? Everything is looking... He's looking like a clone of any other president on the big international policies that matter. Very disappointing. I think it's up to the voters of America to take their country back. And if Trump doesn't help them, they'll have to do it without him and without the government at all. If he doesn't do it, I would say don't vote anymore. It's a waste of time. Another thing is, I saw an anonymous warning, and that is a warning from, it's purporting to be from the group Anonymous, I mean who knows if it is, about false flag attacks and being used as an excuse by America at least to weaponize space. And they showed a video of Eisenhower warning about the military-industrial complex, and somebody else talking about Werner von Braun's warning about how space would be weaponized. They'd use excuses like deflecting asteroids, which actually would be a good excuse, or needing defense from alien attack. And the anonymous video pointed to, I forget his name, is it Greg Phillips or something like that? Some crazy money-making UFO person who talked about aliens on Sirius or something like that, I don't know. Looks like total garbage to me. But I will say this, weaponizing space is probably what America wants to do. I'm not saying they should do it, but they probably want to. Because they're not really keeping up with the treaties. They've broken the anti-missile defence treaty already by putting missile bases in Romania, and they're going ahead with more in Poland. They claim that those are to defend against Iran. Okay, but funny how they're on the Russian border, isn't it? You know, if they want to defend against Iran, they should put them in Israel and Turkey. That would make sense, not Romania and Poland. So obviously they're liars, and they're breaching treaties. And of course they breached their agreement with Gorbachev in the first place, and took Eastern Europe from the Soviet bloc, or the ex-Soviet bloc anyway. And they've been prodding Putin with a stick, trying to take Ukraine as well. I think Putin has drawn a line in the sand there for now. And has actively intervened in Syria, as if to say, do you really want to fight? And the Americans, Obama, indeed, right after claiming in the Czech Republic at the beginning of his presidency that he was president for peace, and he wanted peace in Europe, immediately after that he started doing these missile bases and designing or he okayed the go-ahead of the design of small nuclear weapons. And of course small nuclear weapons make nuclear war thinkable. And we don't want nuclear war to be thinkable. The mutually assured destruction of massive nuclear devastation has actually worked to keep the peace. If we make nuclear war fightable, then it will inevitably happen. And it still may be fatal for the Earth, and at the very least it will probably cause a mass extinction and probably destroy most humans. An exchange of about 300 of the current weapons, and there's thousands of them, is thought to be enough to stop crops growing for about 10 years due to all the pollution in the atmosphere blocking the sunlight. So what would people do without food for 10 years? The majority would just die. It may be that there's some evil plan to devastate Europe in a nuclear conflict, because we are the region most difficult to control, most difficult to brainwash. We have the best democratic traditions on the whole. The United States population is pretty heavily brainwashed now, although they managed to vote for Trump, so maybe some major cities there have to go to. That's if you're looking at it negatively. There are better ways to do it. Space weaponization is a way of, again, threatening other powers, because you could blast them from space either with missiles or something like that. If you're sending missiles down from space, they're only 100 miles up, only 100 miles from your target, maybe 150. That's not very far. They'd be very, very hard to intercept if fired from space. Ballistic missiles fired from the Earth have to usually travel more than 150 miles or so. So there's more time to intercept them, and you can track them more easily. But when they're coming straight down, it's a lot harder. And they may have multiple warheads as well, and all the rest. But certainly if the authorities start saying, or even stage a fake attack, or an attack, suppose the Earth is attacked from space somehow, and they say, no, there's aliens attacking, we have to build space weapons to defend ourselves. I have no doubt that any such thing would be fake. There are no aliens out there, I'm sure. From my analysis in the recent video about the rare Earth hypothesis, I'll stick a link below if I remember, or you can look it up. I'm reasonably satisfied that there are not any aliens near us. So any such attack on the Earth or threat would be fake, basically, in my view. Even if they show you pictures and videos of actual aliens walking around, or you see them, I think they might well be robots, clad in sort of clothing. If they look humanoid, if they look like humans, like the Greys and the giant blondes and all the rest of them do, then they're fake, because aliens wouldn't look like us. 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose with 2 nostrils, 1 mouth. Why would they look like us? There's so many different body designs that are possible. Even on the Earth, the animals on the Earth don't look like us. They look very, very vaguely like us, but not as close to us as the aliens that you see in all these sci-fi rubbishy stories. And the UFO sightings and all that. They'd have to go some to convince me that anything like that was real, I'm afraid. So yes, I suppose the anti-globalization war is on. There is a war for your mind. InfoWars is right, even though Alex Jones probably goes too far and blows up a conspiracy theory on everything. Right. Fundamentally what he says is correct, and we are being mind controlled. And if you want to see how, look up the documentary called The Century of the Self. The Century of the Self. It's old. It's in 3 hour-long parts. But it will blow your mind. We are not living in 1984 in the West. We are living in Brave New World. And the public are being brainwashed with happiness drugs of various sorts. TV, movies, YouTube entertainment. And you have to deliberately seek to find out information in order to do it. Mostly what you're fed is bread and circuses to keep you distracted from how the elites are fleecing you for more and more and more money. Like Smaug in The Hobbit, which I watched over Christmas. Just sitting on their gold for no good reason, frankly. It's just power, or ticking boxes for themselves. Oh yes, I've got that now, how great. I need more. Instead of making the world a better place, they just need more for themselves. It's peculiar. What can we do about that? Apart from being aware of it. And of course, if too many people are aware of it, they may decide that it's about time for nuclear war to wipe us out. Well, I think we have to take our chances, otherwise we just give up, actually. We may be able to vote it down like we voted Brexit, or we voted Trump. However well or badly these things turn out. Voting has probably had its day if they don't start changing stuff. If votes don't change things, then we'll have to abandon them, but we have to wait and see whether they do or not. There's not much longer to wait. Well, okay. What do you think? Am I right? Am I mad? Subscribe and like, and bye for now.